Hello,
Okay.
everybody, and thanks for joining us for another timeless conversation. For those of you who were on Instagram Live, we apologize. We were having technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on with Instagram today, but Instagram Live was not working with us. So, happy Friday. My name is Bree. I work with Timeless. We have today John Wicks, who is our 2021 Jim Sims Award winner. It is a very uh, distinguished award based on an innovative mind in the field of organics. And John and I have started this conversation once, but we're going to do it again. So, John, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started growing and your introduction into organics?
Okay. I'm John Wicks. I'm a fourth generation farmer in southern Liberty County where I farm with my wife, Gwen. I grew up around here. I graduated from Chester High School and went on to go to Helena Votech, where I did welding and machining for 2 years. And then I enrolled in Montana State University, and I was in my first year there. And my father, Russ, passed away. So I moved back to the farm to run the family farm at the age of 21. I've been here 15 years now. I began experimenting in 2012 with cover crops, and now I plant 100% of fallow ground to covers. I began playing around with organic in 2016, and that kind of just got my start in the organics. And now I have transitioned the entire farm to organic, and I'm finishing up my regenerative certification. I also serve on the FSA Liberty County Committee, the Montana Organic Association Board, and was appointed to the Montana Ag Development Council. So, keeps me busy.
You sound like a busy fella. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like for you, since 2016, when you started to see your ground into organics, that it's just kind of been like a kind of an explosion since then. I mean, this is a lot to be involved in, and then to move from organic, being certified organic, which is a process, to being to moving to this regenerative certification, which is a whole different. It's not a whole different animal, but I feel like it takes it to a different level. So can you explain to us, like, what does maybe the regenerative certification have a part of it that maybe the organic doesn't? Or can you explain the difference between us for us?
So yeah, the regenerative is geared more towards, I would say, soil health and climate change, and trying to like alleviate some practices that are accepted in organic, maybe that aren't necessarily the best practices. Lots of tillage, maybe using like fertilizers that come from unsustainable operations. It has a climate change. I guess that's one of the big key things that they're working on, and social fairness, and across the board. I think it's just like a good model for growers to kind of follow and get into. It's a lot of paperwork, and it
Yeah.
looks kind of at every distinct part of your operation. So when you're doing tillage, you need to explain why for that, your area that's necessary, and it's very in depth.
Mm. I think the amount of paperwork you guys have to go through for any of these certifications, I mean, it is mounds and mounds. And I think a lot of people do not realize how much paperwork goes into this.
Yeah, that's they're pretty helpful. I certified through the state of Montana, and they're pretty helpful with questions and good about getting back to you. And the regenerative people have been pretty good, but it is a big undertaking, and it's a little daunting at times to get motivated to finish it all up.
Yeah, I could totally see that. So with that, I know that um, you touched on some of the challenges that organic growers face. Can you expound upon that a little bit?
Yeah, I think especially for like getting into organics, kind of how I did coming from conventional, it was just a challenge to kind of change the way that you thought about dealing with problems in the field and kind of how you manage that without, quick fixes all the time. So you really had to kind of understand why you had the problems you did and how to fix it, kind of mimicking nature and uh, keeping your fields, I guess, in good health. Was you have to plan like years ahead instead of just like weeks ahead. So it's this big process where you're thinking out a long time. That's kind of the biggest thing that was hard for me to like wrap my head around. I think, also like getting different equipment for organic, like I was set up pretty decent to be a conventional farmer, but when I started doing organic, I needed plows, discs, and
Mhm.
different things. So it was a long and kind of expensive path to get those things on the farm.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you kind of have to find contracts for what you're going to grow, and that can be challenging if you want to grow like a lot of wheat, like I usually do. But it's hard to find an organic home for it at a reasonable price, and the hauling is further away. The everything is just kind of removed outside of your area a little bit more.
And I think it's important to note that when you say that things are further away, uh, let's say most of the country, things, you don't have to go as far for things just in general. In
Yeah.
Montana, you have to haul for everything, it's a haul. So he's not
Yeah.
joking when he says that. Yeah, I can.
I have some crops going down to Idaho Falls right now, barley, and so I had to hire that done because I can't haul that far. And before when I was doing conventional, it was 30 miles away was my elevator. I had two elevators there for options. So, and then dealing with timeless, that's not as bad. It's about 90 miles away, so that's an easier haul. I can do that, but it's a little further than I was used to.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, you certainly do. You're right about having to plan. And I think the mindset piece is perhaps I've interviewed about 40 growers now, and I think that's one of the biggest hurdles. Once you get over how you're thinking about your fields and how you're thinking about dealing with the challenges of your fields, then it just opens up a different realm of possibilities for you.
Yeah.
So that's been a really encouraging um, that's been really encouraging to see some people and their growth in that along the way. So, and you've had some mentors along the way, is that right?
Yeah, Jim Burngrover was a really big help getting me into organic. I had just started without really a clue or how to get things done organically, and I just kind of thought I was going to try it for a couple of years, and I probably wouldn't continue down that path. But I called him on my first contract, and that's when I kind of was introduced to timeless and growing lentils. And he came out and shared resources, told me people to talk to, all these things, and it, he was really encouraging at like not only keeping that in organic, but like growing and transitioning the farm to full organic production. And so during the transition, Timeless has been a huge part of our farm's success and supporting us through the transition. It really just made it fly by and not seem like it was 3 years of, just kind of up in the air, hoping to be organic one day. And so it's been a really good experience working with them, and I'm just very thankful.
Oh, well, that's really great to hear. And we, again, are grateful for what you're doing on your end. Can you tell me which products have you grown for us or are you growing for us now? Oh, you froze.
Yep. So the first lentils I ever grew were, oh, sorry, my back yet?
You're back.
Oh, okay. So the first crop I grew was red lentils. They did pretty bad the first year because I didn't have any experience and I didn't think I was allowed to inoculate lentils in organic. So it was a failure the first year. The second year, I grew a pretty good red lentil crop, but it shelled out before I could harvest it. And since then, I've really been growing a lot of beluga lentils, and I like working with weirder crops that aren't common. So having a black lentil is pretty interesting, and I really enjoy growing those. And I've also grown some chickpeas a couple of years, and I'll be doing chickpeas again this year.
Now, chickpeas are a finicky crop.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that when they're, when you have hummus that you eat in the grocery store, if it is, if it's not grown organically, it's grown conventionally. And so it still does have the pesticide residues on there. And because, as I understand it, and you're a grower, as I understand it, because they are so finicky, they are one of the most heavily sprayed pulses.
Yeah, I grew them once when I was conventional, and they ended up getting ascicated, a fungal disease in them. And it was like sprayed every 2 weeks. And then when it was time to harvest, you used paraquat, which I never used the paraquat. I just waited it out and let them dry down naturally because I didn't want to be around that. But most people paraquat them, then they have to wait a week to harvest, and that desiccates and dries them down. So that just having that on the pod and then thrashed together, it just doesn't really seem like the best thing to put in your body, I guess. And I like eating those chickpeas green
Ah,
off the pod, and they're pretty delicious. So I like growing them, but harvesting is a big issue. So what I'll do is have them swathed and dry down in a swath and go back and pick them up later. And
yeah.
it saves quite a bit of headache.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it's, I think with it'll just be, I'd love to see what you're doing. Will you be doing the not conventional, the blonde or the black butte? Do you know?
I'll be doing Orions, I think, this year. They're a little more disease tolerant, and, kind of dealing with this, we don't need the really large Sierra varieties that I've grown before. I'd like to grow the blacks, but I don't know if there's many contracts available for them. I always told myself I wouldn't grow chickpeas again after I did it the first year, but then you forget how hard it was a couple of years later and think, oh, I'll try that again. And so I'm looking forward to it, though. I think it'll be fun, and I've learned a lot along the way.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot more experience under your belt,
Yeah.
you know, after growing. And then on top of that, you mentioned the committees that you're a part of, which actually puts you in quite a bit of community for troubleshooting.
Yep. Yeah, I've really enjoyed the work on all three of those boards and councils that I serve on. Being on the Montana Organic Association, you meet really great people and you get to know them a lot quicker than if you were just going to the conference every year. And so I've made a lot of friends through that. I really enjoy the work at the FSA. It's fun to, you know, learn all these new programs and kind of have the ins and outs figured out before, you really have to go apply. And the people at the office there are great to work with. And so it's really fun. And the egg development has been just phenomenal, learning about all these new egg ideas around the state, and different avenues that I would have never thought about that people are coming up with. And so it's a great experience.
I think that there is something to be said for having a hive mind, like everybody, and their collaborative experience, because your, your experience with your fields um, is valuable. However, another farm grower, and we might say like one part of Montana is totally different than another part of Montana in the way that the soil is and the weather is, and it can be vastly different. Um, but as you come together collectively, you can really troubleshoot a lot more. Is I've seen that happen in MOA, It's that, again, I will plug that one. That's a great organization to be a part of for anybody who is in organic agriculture, organic production of any product. It's a great organization to be a part of.
Yeah, and I love that. The sense of community with MOA, and you'll be talking about you want to try something, and oh, I've done that before, and I had a failure here, and this is what I learned from it. So it kind of helps you not have to go through those like growing pains of your own when you're learning different things. So it's a shared experience and
Mm-hmm.
very helpful.
Yeah, it's like standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before you, so you
Yep.
can move on to the next level faster. So okay, black belugas. Back to black belugas. I get to visit with a lot of our end consumers, and black belugas is one of the favorites right now, because they're so versatile and they hold their shape. And it's been really fun to talk to people about what they're doing. I think we had one restaurant who was putting it with octopus, and it was just a beautiful, it was just a very beautiful presentation of what they were doing. So there's all kinds of creative things happening with the lentils that are coming from your fields.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I cook with them a little bit, but I'm kind of on the boring side of I haven't learned many recipes, other
No
than just
octopus.
no octopus yet, no. But yeah, they're such a neat, like it's like almost like a bright black, crop that it when it's coming out of a truck and into the drill or anything, it's always just really neat to see that. And so I can imagine, being on a real chef's plate, how it would stand out.
Mhm. They're doing some pretty creative stuff with it out there for sure. So I think, um, what would you say to, this is your opportunity to say to our end consumer, what would you say about timeless or the product that comes from your field? What would you like to say to them about that?
Well, I'd first like to thank them for their support and taking the time to learn and like buy from companies like Timeless that really care about how the product's grown. Um, it really is a better way of growing, I believe, and safer for the end consumer. When I was farming conventionally, I never really saw my crops as food. I saw them as just commodities. And since I've gone to organic and I've learned more about the people that are, eating this food, I really think about quality every step of the way, and like ensuring and trying to remember that we are growing food for people and to like treat it as such. So
That's good. That's interesting. That's an interesting, like, mindset shift.
yeah, it was, it was like you were growing a crop. And I mean, I never really thought about once it left my farm. And I always kind of pictured it going through some big cleaning process and all these things and like being washed. And then, the more you learn, that's not really the case. So it's really up to farmers and, pretty, handlers, packagers to really care about like preserving food safety. And so it kind of opened my eyes, and I have a little more respect for the products that I'm growing now.
That's cool. And I can tell you on the food safety end of it that the guys in the warehouse and the ladies in the warehouse are on it. At times they are on it. They're serious about what they do and are very passionate about making sure that the end product is really good quality. It looks good. It's packaged correctly, and it gets to where it needs to go. They are top notch as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So
I haven't got to tour the whole facility yet, but I've seen, the pictures of the color sorters and all the different cleaning. I mean, it's a big process to get things onto the shelf with and being able to put your stamp on it like that. It's pretty impressive.
and it's 30 years in the making. And talking to some of the girls who've been there for 10, 15 years, they have seen quite a bit of transition in the processing piece of it. And as you grow, you get bigger equipment, it's more expansive. It's just, we still got some great history from when it first started. Or it
Yeah.
was growing, I'll say, from when it was growing. So Well, thank you so much for joining me today, John. I know that our agronomists, Jim and Joseph, are always super excited to come out and visit with you, because you just add a lot of curiosity, just a lot of willingness to learn and success at this point. And if you, I remember right after we got finished with our meeting for our growers meeting for this year, you sent me a text about timeless, and I wonder if you can kind of elaborate a little bit of that before we go.
Yeah, when I got that award, I was just like a little shocked that I had gotten the Jim Sims Award, and I didn't really know what to say. And then I think we had a glitch with the
Yeah.
tech. All of the timeless guys got kicked off, but really they've been such a big help, and they're probably one of the reasons that our farm is still operating today. I mean, we were up against some big debt payments and these things, and having them to kind of rely on and show us the way has real and given us opportunities with these contracts, and just being really great to work with has gotten us to a stable point where we're sustainable as an operation and functioning, and everyone is kind of not as stressed out as we were 6 years ago. So wanted to just say thank you to them again, and how appreciative I am of that.
Yeah. That was a really powerful text. So yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, for those of you who tried to join us on Instagram Live, I don't know what happened. It's internet's being funky on my end. Maybe on John's end too. And we'll figure it out. But if we can't do these Instagram lives, what we'll do is we'll continue to do it, but we'll do it through Zoom next time. But anyway, until next time, we look forward to seeing you guys again for another timeless conversation. Thank you so much.